For Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated, I'm Brendan Gulick along with Adam Prescott to discuss the challenge of trying to figure out who the best players are in the league this year and how they're going to stack up on the all-conference team, which frankly is a decision that's not all that far down the road because the Buckeyes now only have 4 games left in the regular season. Adam, E.J. Liddell has had a heck of a year for the Buckeyes. He's been their leading scorer. He's been the heart and soul of this team so often. But there are some really high-end players in this league that are probably dead locks to make the first team. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
Well, I put together my 5, and I actually don't think it's too much of a debate, as crazy as it sounds, with so many big-time players in such a big-time league this year. You'd think maybe who are the top 5 is more of a debate. I'm not sure there is. I think there's 3 that you cannot even argue with, and that's Luka Garza, and then the 2 studs from Illinois, Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn. I think those 3, it's hard to say that they shouldn't be on there, And then the last 2 spots, I would give it to Trace Jackson Davis, and then I would put E.J. Liddell as the 5th guy on that team. The only guy that I think about making an argument for is Joe Wieskamp, and nobody loves Joe Wieskamp more than me. But E.J. Liddell is not even top 30 in the Big Ten in minutes played, and when you look at his production, kind of where he ranks, atop the conference in some certain categories, which not the highest usage rate. Considering what Ohio State's done as a team, I think E.J. Liddell is a first-team all-conference guy. Very little questions asked, at least from me.
And I think you almost could feel his absence that much more earlier in the year when he was out with mono for a couple games. Mm-hmm. His impact, obviously, in the scoring column's been impressive, but he could do so many different things. Obviously, suddenly he can shoot 3-pointers with some regularity.
Yeah, right.
But his mid-range jump shot is really impressive, for being an undersized guy. And maybe we say that too often, but he's typically a little smaller than the guys he's guarding in the post. He's had a really effective year in the key, and I agree with you. I think Liddell is going to wind up on the first team All Big Ten by the time this is all said and done.
Yeah, I think it's just more the eye test too. Like you got to try to take away, all right, what has their team done, or what year they are, or things like that. And it's just when you watch him, like when I watch E.J. Liddell and see him carry the team for certain stretches on a team that's deep and well-rounded, but he's the guy that typically stands out. I just think first team all conference. When you watch him, when you're sitting on your couch watching him, you're like, I would want that guy.
Well, the Buckeyes certainly felt that way on Thursday night when they played Penn State. Liddell carried the team through a crazy offensive first half. He dropped 17 points. Then he picks up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes of the second half and has to come out for a good 4-minute stretch. And at that point, Chris Holtmann felt the team, kind of slipping offensively. The Buckeyes were down 8, and, he put Liddell back in the game with just about 13 minutes left. And even though EJ didn't score a bunch of points, the Buckeyes went on a 15-0 run. And from that point forward, the game kind of flipped, and you could just kind of feel his presence on the floor more than just in the scoring column. So I agree with you. He's only a sophomore. His game has come a long way, but what a wild year he's put together. And, I think the Buckeyes are going to try to ride him as much as they can during this crazy stretch here at the end of the year.
Yeah, he's certainly got some left in the tank. He's only averaged 27 and a half minutes a game this season. Like I said, not even top 30 in the league in minutes played. So I'd like to think, Holtman's saving some of those minutes for down the stretch in the postseason, maybe get him 30, 33 minutes a game somewhere in there when they really need him.
You mentioned Joe Wieskamp, who's a phenomenal shooter for Iowa. And frankly, because the Big Ten this year is arguably as good as it's ever been, I really don't think that's hyperbole. The second team in whoever winds up on the second team All Big Ten could probably give the first team a pretty good run. Who do you think is going to wind up on the second team this year?
So I got Wieskamp. By the way, I watching Gus Johnson the other day call him Wheezy for like 40 minutes straight against Michigan State. I can't look at Wieskamp the same anymore. So Wieskamp, Travion Williams from Purdue, Marcus Carr from Minnesota. Marcus Carr, by the way, 4th in the Big Ten in scoring, 2nd in assists. Say what you want about Minnesota, that kid can play. Isaiah Livers from Michigan, and I think Dwayne Washington belongs on the second team. Dwayne can be frustrating to watch sometimes. He can, kind of have some roller coaster performances. But again, just another gamer. When you watch the Buckeyes and when you watch what he does on the court in certain moments, hit some big shots, certainly doesn't lack for confidence. Another guy that I wouldn't mind being in the trenches with.
Yeah, Dwayne's come up with some clutch shots. His efficiency this year has been frustrating at times, but again, recency bias. Go back to Thursday night against Penn State. Pretty arguably his best game of the year. He was 6 of 9 shooting the ball at a 21-point game, and far more than half those points came in the second half. I think he had 15 in the second half. He's continued to perform for Ohio State, especially when they need him most, even if he's going to send Chris Holtmann to an early death, in Holtmann's own words. Of the guys that you kind of considered that didn't make, your selections there, first and second team, who just missed the cut in your mind?
And I feel like when people watch this, they're going to say, well, wait, what about Ron Harper Jr.? He's an honorable mention guy last year, I believe. Good player. I've watched him a couple times. Wasn't super impressed with a couple, full games that I've seen. But a stat on Ron Harper Jr. got off to a pretty good start this season, but since Christmas time, he's led Rutgers in scoring twice. He's led them in rebounding once, and he has not led them in assists. So the three main categories, he hasn't, really even led his own team, in a lot of games, let alone, going up against some of these other guys on this list in terms of the eye test and what has he done and whatnot. Rutgers, Rutgers has struggled in a lot of sports across the Big Ten. They got a pretty good basketball team, and that's great for them. I just can't put Ron Harper Jr. over any of those other guys. And then Hunter Dickinson from Michigan. I think a lot of people say, what about the 7-footer from the Wolverines? Again, that kid's coming. That kid's going to be a player, and you can't coach height. We all know that. But he has not in here. I made a couple notes on Hunter Dickinson. I watched him. He struggled against Travion Williams from Purdue. I think he had 8 points and 3 rebounds against Travion. Was in foul trouble the whole game. Like I said, he's coming. He might not be there yet. Only 1 double-digit rebounding game in his last 8 outings. Hasn't scored over 12 points in his last 6 games. So again, as things get tightened, I know they've had a couple weeks off here, and they'll get back into things. But if I had to pick one guy from Michigan, I think I'd rather have Isaiah Livers, senior, led Michigan in scoring last year. He and Dickinson have pretty similar stats for the Wolverines, despite playing different positions. So Hunter Dickinson's coming. I just can't put him there this year.
Well, there's no doubt that Livers has had a heck of a season and certainly deserves that kind of recognition. So we'll take very good notes. We've got this on record now. We'll hold your feet to the fire when the all-conference teams come out at the end of the year and kind of see how it shakes out. Good thoughts, and glad to see that you think E.J. Liddell is good enough to be a first-teamer. I certainly I'm on that same page at the moment, and there are still 4 games left in the regular season, and they are tough as we shoot this. Ohio State's getting ready to play Michigan on Sunday. They've still got to go to Michigan State next Thursday. And then, oh, by the way, close the season with Iowa and Illinois. What a gauntlet before the Big Ten tournament even starts. It's going to be a fun few weeks of basketball here for sure.
Buckle up, baby. Yeah, buckle up.
No doubt. Thanks for your time, Adam. Talk to you soon.
No problem.